Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review. And in today's video, we're taking a look at the brand new Avengers Endgame Nano Gauntlet Hulk from Marvel Select. And what's really interesting about this figure is that for some reason, Diamond Select decided to give us two different figures for this version of Hulk. And it's not just like one of them's a repaint of the other. They're two completely different figures with different sculpts, different accessories, and they were even released in different ways. One of them is a Disney Store exclusive, and the other one, which is this Nano Gauntlet version, is the one that you could pretty much buy anywhere. And in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Nano Gauntlet version, and I'm also going to be comparing it to the Disney Store version to hopefully help you decide which one you should buy. But let's go ahead and get into it, starting with the packaging. It does come with the standard huge Marvel Select packaging. In this case, it doesn't annoy me as much because the Hulk figure is pretty big and he even has accessories. So I'm okay with them using this big box when it's a figure like this, even though they probably could get away with something smaller. Like I always say, hopefully they move in that direction, but probably not. They've used this style of packaging for like, what, 48 years or something crazy like that. But it does look cool. You're able to see the figure. You can see the accessories. Over here it says Nano Gauntlet Hulk, Avengers Endgame, Marvel Select, all that cool stuff. On the side it says Avengers Endgame. On the back, we get a look at the figure in a really strange looking pose, but you know, okay, whatever. And then right here, there's like a brief bio of the Hulk, which is cool. Right here, it says that this figure was sculpted by Gentle Giant Studios. That's awesome. Like I always say, I love when they give credit to the sculptors. And aside from that, it's basically the same packaging that we've seen for a very long time. But let's go ahead and rip this figure out and take a look. Okay, so before we get too deep into the comparison aspect of this video, let's go ahead and take a few minutes to appreciate this Hulk on its own, because I really feel like Gentle Giant Studios did a nice job on the sculpting work on him, especially on the suit. There's a lot of nice details on there. There's a lot of depth to the sculpt, and there's just a lot of texture on the whole figure. There's no like smooth spots or anything like that, and it looks really good. And I really like the design of this. I think it feels very movie accurate, and I like the purples and grays and everything on this figure. And you know, I know it's kind of goofy to have Hulk in a big jumpsuit like this, but I dig it. I like the design. I like the colors, and I think they did a good job of bringing that to life with this figure. There's a lot of good paint work on the body. I like the different shades of gray. There's some dark gray, some light gray, and then even like, it feels like there's maybe, I could find like 3 different shades of gray on this, so that's really cool. And there's a few different shades of purple, and there's just a lot going on with the paint work. And I think on the body, it's pretty well done. There are some parts that don't feel as crisp as I think they should be, like the line across the chest here doesn't look as clean as I would like it. But for the most part, I think the paint on this guy is pretty good as far as the body goes. And as far as the head sculpt goes, I think they did a pretty good job, but the paint job is just very bland and boring and lacks detail. And I feel like it's doing the head sculpt an injustice, because you can't really tell how good the head sculpt is because the paint job is so like weak. You know, there's just not a lot of details. I think this figure would have greatly benefited from having a 5 o'clock shadow and just having more details around the eyes and nose, and maybe just having a paint wash like on the face would have gone a long way. But just as is, it just looks and feels very boring. But I will say the sculpt does look like Mark Ruffalo Hulk, but that paint job just isn't helping us see it. So I wish they would have done a better job on that. Aside from that, I think the figure looks pretty good. One thing that's kind of weird about it is right out of the packaging, it was very like loose in the hips. And I think it's because they left enough room in there so you can move the hips around without any problems. So I could appreciate that, but I just wish it didn't feel so loose. You know, it just kind of makes it feel cheap right out of the packaging. And, you know, you don't want that to be the first impression. But aside from that, I think the figure is pretty well done. And I especially like the sculpting work on the suit and just the design of the figure. It does look movie accurate, and I like it a lot. I just wish the head sculpt had a better paint job. Aside from that, I think this figure looks good. I think the joints look good. Everything's pretty well hidden. There's no ugly joints that stand out and that are distracting or anything like that. So I'm happy with the way this figure looks. But let's go ahead and take a look at him next to the Disney Store version. And as you could see, they look very different. I feel like the Disney Store version was based on early concept art for this version of Hulk, and maybe that's why it's not as accurate. This new one feels very movie accurate. All the details on the suit look very good, and I was googling a bunch of pictures of this version of Hulk, and this guy kind of has it spot on. But the Disney Store version lacks a lot of details that the movie does. A lot of things on this Disney Store version are very inaccurate, like the pattern of the suit looks very different. It looks similar, and it does capture the look of it. So, you know, I feel like it does an okay job of capturing this version of Hulk, but if you start looking into the details and trying to find like the inaccuracies, you're going to find a lot on this figure. So that's what makes me think that they sculpted this figure very early in the process of making this movie. So I think that's kind of interesting. And you know what's kind of a weird thing? The Disney Store version kind of feels like it's a comic book version of this idea for Hulk. And I don't know if he's appeared in the comics in this jumpsuit. He probably has since the movie, but you know, I know it's not something that he's known for beforehand. But I think that like because of the softer details and the less realistic looking sculpt, it kind of feels like a comic book or cartoon version of this concept for Hulk. And maybe that's why they decided to go ahead and put out both of them, because they felt different enough. And you know, I could definitely find a place for both of these guys in my collection, to be honest with you. I like both of them. I really like the stature and the build of the Disney Store one, but I love the movie accuracy and the articulation and just the overall look of the newer one. But they're both very good. And aside from the fact that the newer version does look more movie accurate, he also comes with some way better accessories. The Disney Store version only comes with 2 sets of hands. He comes with a pair of fists and then a pair of open hands. The newer version comes with 3 sets of hands. He comes with a pair of fists, a pair of open hands, and then a pair of hands that kind of has like the finger extended. And then not only does he come with that, he also comes with a really awesome nano gauntlet or power gauntlet, whatever you want to call it, that you could stick onto the figure, and that looks really good. And that's a big thing that the Disney Store version did not include, and I think that's kind of crazy that they didn't throw that in there. They really should have, but thankfully they put it in with this new one. Unfortunately, you're not able to put this power gauntlet onto the Disney Store version. The arm is just too small, it just wouldn't work, but it looks nice on the new version, so that's all that matters. So that's good there, but that's a trip that the Disney Store version didn't have that. I'm glad that they made that right this time around. And here's a closer look at the gauntlet, and I think they did a really nice job on this. Check out the stones there. They look really, really cool. And the colors and the detail on this thing are really nice. Check out all the gold and the red and how it all comes together. It looks really good. Then check out the details here on the like wrist part. That looks really nice too. Damn, look at that. They went all out on the sculpt on this thing. It looks really, really good. But let's go ahead and look at the head sculpts. I think the head sculpt on the newer one is definitely a lot better, and it does look a lot like Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, but the old version just doesn't do it. I don't think it's a bad head sculpt, but it just doesn't really look like the movie version of Hulk. I think both of these figures kind of suffer from a bad paint job and just not doing a really good job with the skin tone on these Hulk figures. There's just something about it that doesn't look right, and they both kind of lack the details that they need to make them look as good as they really are, because I don't think either one of these head sculpts are bad. I just think the paint details make them look worse than they should, you know, especially on the Disney Store version. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with that blush red on the cheek. A lot of people were, you know, clowning on that, and, you know, it doesn't look very good. That's something they should have left out. But aside from that, I don't know. The sculpt isn't very accurate to the movie, but, you know, that's not the biggest problem with that head sculpt. I just think that that paint and skin tone looks really bad. On the new one, they corrected it a little bit as far as the sculpt goes. It looks more accurate, but the skin isn't quite right there. You know, I think they could have done a better job with it. And then here's something that I know is not a huge detail, but it's something that's important to me because it makes it feel like they put a little bit more care into it. But with the new version, you could see that they actually painted the fingernails different colors than the fingers. And with the Disney Store version, you can't even really see the fingernails. It's all just one color, and it kind of looks weird. But right here's the new one, and you could see that the fingernails are different. So that's good, man. That's a very good thing. And then same thing applies to the toes. They painted the toenails different from the rest of the foot, and they did not on the Disney Store version. As far as the scale goes, both of these figures are about the same height. The Disney Store version does feel a little bit bigger, but it's mostly because how broad he is and how wide he is. Really, the height is pretty much the same on the two figures. So here's a quick look at them next to a bunch of different MCU stuff, starting off with the Marvel Select Endgame Thanos. And then next up, we have them alongside the SH Figure Arts Infinity War Hulk. And then here we have them alongside the SH Figure Arts Infinity War Thanos. And then here we have them alongside the Marvel Select Infinity War Captain America. And then here they are alongside the Marvel Select Infinity War Thor. Here we have them alongside the Marvel Legends Worthy Captain America. And then now we have them alongside the Marvel Legends 3-pack Thanos. And because we don't break tradition, here we have them alongside the Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man and Marvel Legends Bucky Cap. And as you can see from all those different size comparisons, I think either one of these Hulks would look really good next to your Marvel Select figures. And that's about it. I think they're way too big to hang out with Marvel Legends or Figure Arts. And as far as the articulation goes, I'm going to go ahead and show you what this guy's capable of. But if you want to see the full range of articulation on the Disney version, go ahead and check out my review. It's on my channel now. But I will be sure to point out a few notable differences between the articulation on these two figures. But let's go ahead and take a look at this version's articulation. So first off, his head is able to move side to side. He can look up to about right there. He could look down to about right there. And then for the torso, he does have a mid-torso cut, which allows him to tilt to the side a little bit. Not too much to the side, but there's definitely some movement there. So that's good. He can twist, which is nice. And he could crunch forward only... Let's see, can he crunch? Ugh, not really. Can't really crunch too much, so... I mean, there's a little bit... Oops. There's a little bit of crunch going on, but not too much. He really doesn't hold the position when you try to crunch him. But he can twist, so that's pretty good. And he can tilt a little bit, so that's okay. And then he could go back. Not too much. Can't really go back too much either. So not too much going on in the torso, but it's pretty decent. And then he does have a waist swivel, which I just realized right now because you can't even see it. It's hidden in the sculpt there, so that is awesome. I thought he didn't have a waist swivel. And then for the arms, they can go all the way around. They could come out to the side. He has a single jointed elbow, which gets pretty good bend. It's 90, so that's cool. Then you have a swivel at the wrist, and then a hinge at the wrist. And then for the legs, they come out to the side a really nice amount. They come forward a really nice amount. They go back. And then you have the upper thigh swivel, double jointed knee. His ankle definitely has a rocker. It's always kind of hard to show the articulation on bigger Hulk figures. You got to kind of wrestle with it. But his feet do have the rocker joint there with the, the peg facing into the foot. So that works out good. His feet can go forward to about right there. And then they could go up to right there. And there's no lower leg swivel at all. So that's all we have going on there. It feels like both figures have the same amount of points of articulation, but they're just different styles. So, and then now comparing the articulation, first off, the Disney version has ball jointed shoulders. This one does not. He has like shoulder joints that we typically see like on Black Series or like a lot of movie figures have articulation like this. Maybe they feel like ball joints don't look as realistic, and that's definitely true sometimes, but I never know what to call these kind of joints. They're just kind of like a peg that sticks into the torso. There's no ball joint. The shoulder and bicep is just one sculpted piece. And they do look good, that's for sure. And in this case, they both function pretty much the same. They both have single jointed elbows, but this one gets way more range than this one. I mean, not way more, they're both big guys. But as you could see, the new version has like a better 90 here, and this one not quite. And then let's see what else we have going on. The torso definitely works a little bit better on the new version. This one does have a torso joint, but you don't get too much out of it. But I will say the little that it does bend holds a little bit better than it does on here. So this one might get more like in general movement because the figure's a little bit smaller and you could do a little bit more with it, But it doesn't crunch forward as much. And it doesn't, it'll crunch forward, but it won't hold as good as the other version. So that's kind of interesting. And then for the legs, let's see whose legs should go up more. Oh yeah, the legs on the new Hulk definitely go up a lot more. So that's another huge difference. And that's about it, There's not too many differences as far as the articulation goes. I mean, they both could achieve most of the same things. You could probably get a little bit more dynamic with this newer one, just because like he could do a little bit more, but not that much more, He can't. I mean, they're pretty close to each other as far as articulation goes. Let's see if we can get them both in the exact same pose. Okay, so at the end of the day, I do think that the Nano Gauntlet version is better than the Disney Store version. It has a better sculpt, it has better accessories, it has better articulation, it looks more movie accurate. It just does everything that it's supposed to better than the Disney Store version. But that's not to say that the Disney Store version is a bad figure, because I actually like this guy a lot. I think he looks really cool on the shelf. And you know what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to put him next to my comic book figures, because as I said, he doesn't look like a movie figure. It feels like a comic book version of this Hulk. So I dig that. I think that's awesome. And for that reason, you know, I'm happy that I have both of these guys. And to be honest with you, both of these will work as your like jumpsuit version of Hulk in your movie collection or wherever you want to put it. So it's really just a matter of preference. I think both of these figures are pretty cool, but in general, I think that you're going to get the most out of the Nano Gauntlet version. You're going to get an accurate Hulk with a bunch of cool accessories and good articulation and all that good stuff. So I think that one does its job a lot better than the Disney Store version. So anyways, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this review comparison hybrid video. And if you like this video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thank you very much. Peace.